Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I am your host, Deb Lutz, also known as D-Lux, and we are here for the beginning of the NBA playoff series with our first playing games tonight. So let's go for the NBA playoffs. Totally stoked, love this time of year, and really excited about the playoffs and my Phoenix Suns this year. Also excited about DFS Coach Talk. We smashed it last year in the playoffs. We're going to do it again this year. Can't wait to get rolling. And I'm honored to be kicking things off today. So let's go. Let's see who we've got in the chat today. Stacks, as usual, man. He is first in. He shows up about an hour and a half beforehand. And I love it, getting things rolling. So we've also got, as Coach would say, Rose. We got Rose Miller in here. Let's go Heat. All right, we got a Heat fan. And Nathan Feudy. How's it going, man? Good to see you in here, as well as Skylar Villar. Oh, another Heat fan. We got the Heat in here today. All right. I think the Heat are going to be bringing the heat today. I like them a lot in today's matchup. So those of you who are Heat fans, you're in a good place. But we should have some folks rolling in. This one will be pretty short. We only have 2 games going on, so not too much. We'll get into a little more depth than usual as a result, because not too much to talk about. Usually we're back battling these 13 game slates. So we'll have a little breathing room today, and feel free to ask questions in the chat if you'd like. And Stacks, you're a Suns fan. I love it. Yeah, Suns all day. I'm hoping that trade really made a difference. They're looking great with Durant, that's for sure. But let's hope everyone stays healthy. Knock wood. I'm curious who you guys are all predicting for the finals. I know I've got my predictions. I've got to go take a look and see what kind of odds we can get for naming the NBA finalists. But curious who you guys are thinking about. So anyway, it is just a 2-game slate today. We've got the first of the 2 games kicking off is Atlanta at Miami. And if I can pull up my my info here. Both games are from a total standpoint are fairly similar. You've got 228 for Atlanta at Miami, and then 233 for the later game, which is Minnesota at the Lakers. And so pretty close there. But in the Laker game, it's an 8.5 point spread. So those of you who have been sleeping under a rock, obviously Minnesota sort of imploded the last game of the season, losing both Rudy Gobert and McDaniels. In addition, Naz Reid a couple weeks ago ended up out for the rest of the year. So when it comes to, big men, they are really struggling. And obviously it's probably causing some internal strife as well. So Gobert is going to be out for this first playing game. So that definitely leaves them very shorthanded. They're going to be starting Taurean Prince, who is actually my favorite value play of the day. But we'll get into that into a minute. But anyway, so Lakers are, as a result, favored by 8.5. The Atlanta-Miami game, Miami is favored by 5. So some clear favorites going on here. And I think that's playing into the pricing as well as how I'm thinking of the games. So let's tackle this first game, Atlanta at Miami. As I mentioned, 227.5 is the over-under with the 5-point spread. I do really think Miami's going to beat Atlanta pretty handily. You can never count out Trae Young. He always seems to bring it in these kinds of games. But Miami, I feel like, has just been coasting all year. They haven't been playing great, but they certainly have the personnel. They've 2 years in a row now. They've gone deep into the playoffs, and I just feel like they've got a playoff ready team. I just feel like they're going to handle things pretty easily. at home against Atlanta. Um, and as a result, the big I think been holding back all season, and we know what he last year in the playoffs. He busted out. I think this year, and starting with handily defeating Atlanta, I don't get scared by Atlanta's defense against somebody like a Butler. So I am going to be going pretty strong against him. I think his pricing is, it's fair. The higher price guys are a little high today, but his pricing overall is fair. And he's definitely someone I'm going to be eyeing. The other guy is Bam, who has been really up and down all year. But he did play better in the playoffs last year as well. And he has shown up pretty nicely against Atlanta with most recent fantasy scores of 41 and 58. So if we can get a 58 from someone like Bam, that is a really powerful line, particularly on Draftkings where he's only 7,700. So I'm definitely eyeing. I will have at least one, if not both, in lineups. And then there's some good value on that side as well. You've got, Victor Oladipo for one. I'm going to pull him up here. Sorry, for some reason my projections went to an old date. I don't know what date that is, but all right, there we go. So, Oladipo is a guy who, again, he tends to show up bigger in the playoffs. He's a veteran. They don't play him many minutes. There was talk a couple of years ago. He and Butler don't get along, don't like to play together. But man, I think that everything gets put aside for the playoffs when you want to win. So he's certainly a good value today. Expected to come off the bench. You have an interesting situation with Vincent and Lowry because Lowry's actually healthy and available to play. And when you look on DraftKings, Lowry's 4K. Now, if Lowry starts, I am all over Lowry, even on Fanduel, where I think he's 5,600. I just think he's going to play more minutes than usual. He's going to play harder than usual. And he just has that upside. I mean, sure, can he stick you with like a 20? Yes, but he could also give you a 40. And against, coming off of Trae Young's defense, I think he could have a big game. So he's someone I'm taking a look at. I'm not going to be interested in Vincent because he will be splitting time with Lowry. He's not a great points per minute guy. He really hasn't been playing that great lately and has not had a good game against Atlanta all season. So not going to go there. The other guy I'm not going to go after, particularly on FanDuel, is Tyler Hero. He is, let's see where he is. He's 7,800. He's getting 25% ownership, so people do like him. But, I just think he's been very up and down all season. Maybe okay for a GPP. And in particular on DraftKings, where he's 6,800, I think he does become interesting for a GPP. But I just can't rely on him and his production showing up. Not until I see some consistency around that production. He has been averaging 25 fantasy points against Atlanta, so he really hasn't had any success with them. So not a place that I'm willing to go. And then, the other is if you want to, kind of go for another one of the low-priced options, I favor Martin in this matchup over Strus. And that's as far as I'd go. I took a good hard look at Love. Who, it's kind of interesting. I think he's, he has potential for sure, but they're probably not even going to start him. And he's only been playing like 15 to 18 minutes. So I just don't think that the upside is there. And again, he's not going to be needed in this matchup against Atlanta. So another reason that I think I would avoid him. On the other side, a little bit tough. I think Miami's defense is stifling. I think they'll lock it down again for this one game matchup. And Trae Young has not shown much success against Miami. He's averaging about 40 fantasy points, which just isn't gonna fly when you're talking about being priced as high as, let's see, 10K on DraftKings. So I do not like Trey here. If you want to take one of the Atlanta backcourt players, thinking, okay, well, this is where most of the offense has to come from, and they're not going to get blown out. You could go with Murray, who has more upside, certainly. He has scored 45, 25, and 47 fantasy points this year against Miami. So he has that potential for the upside. But even on this 2-game slate, with that pricing, there's just too many other sort of upper tier guys that I'm interested in, and I'm not getting to Murray. The guys that I'm getting to on Atlanta, again, a little bit more the value position. I like Hunter a lot. I think he's going to get a little bit less noticed, although as of this time, let's take a look and see on Fanduel. He is at 5,400. Sorry, at 5,400, he's at 30%. So not so unnoticed. And then, wow, yeah, on DraftKings, he is 4,900 and 47%. He's fourth highest owned for the game. And on the slate, he is 1, 2, 3, 4. He's fifth highest owned. So yeah, pretty high ownership on Hunter. Not surprising given where his pricing is, but also he's been averaging about 28 points versus the Heat, and the Heat are really one of the worst in the league, believe it or not, against small forwards. So I think if there's any position that you want to go after with Miami, it's the small forward position. I even thought about looking at Bay, but I don't think his pricing's come up a bit, and I don't think we need to necessarily go that deep at that price point, because you have a lot of other guys in that sort of 45 to 5,500 range who I think will get more minutes than Bay. So not bad for a GPP maybe, but I certainly wouldn't do it otherwise. I think he was on FanDuel. In fact, I think he's 6,100. Let's see. He's 5,800 on DraftKings. Yeah, and FanDuel, he is 6,100. So he's one of the lowest owned guys on the slate. So again, GPP, maybe, but because they're really going to need offense from someone on that second team. So something to think about. Let's see, Brogdon. I like Bay a little bit more than Brogdon, but Brogdon's the guy who's a little less expensive. So I think he's good for his 5x. I'm not sure I necessarily see much more of that again against this Miami defense. So that's about it for me there. I mean, again, I'm going to try and I don't want to, it's not like I'm going more on one game versus the other. I'm pretty even in terms of, how I think I'm going to be playing these two games. I do tend to favor the Miami players over the Atlanta players in this game. And then in the second game, I'm probably favoring the Minnesota players only because the usage just gets so consolidated when you've got LeBron and AD. So you got to take one of those guys. But then after that, it's a little bit of picking and choosing. So that is it for the first game. Let's see what folks are saying in the chat. Miami has Trey's number. Yes, exactly. Totally agree with you, Skylar. Yeah, I'm not going for Trey at all today. And Travis Wyndham's joining us. Hey, man, how's it going? Stacks agrees. He likes Martin as well. Yeah, I think Martin's a pretty good value and has played particularly well against this team. I'll real quickly take you through, since we do have time, I'll take you through ownership and pricing. Let's go with this first game. So over on DraftKings, Kyle Lowry's at 83%, 4K. Looks like that's the massive chalk of the day. Tough to not play Kyle Lowry at 4K. If he's playing, you got to believe at a minimum he's going to be 20 fantasy points. So he's not going to hurt you at that. Pretty solid option. And like we said, he does have the upside. If he gets you a 30, that's over 7x. So not surprised he's at 83%. I think that's chalk worth eating. Tyler Hero is at 57%. Again, the pricing is really low, 6,800. He does have the upside, but he also has downside. So he could get you a 40, 45, but he could also get you a 25. And at 25 and 6,800, you're sunk. So I like him. I don't really like him in a cash game. That's chalk that I'm not going to eat. And then the question is, do you go after him in a GPP? But given the ownership, that's a little less enticing. Jimmy Butler comes in right next to him. And I'd rather go there. I'd much rather go to Jimmy Butler. I know he's 2,200 more, but you just feel like the usage is there. The ball's going to be in his hands. They don't have the defense against him, and he's proven to play well against Atlanta. DeAndre Hunter, as we discussed, and then Bam, 7,700, 44%. So really no surprises there in the top five. The bottom five, I think it's worth looking at in this because of this small matchup. The bottom five, Caleb Martin, we talked about at 5K. I think that's a good play, and I like him better than Strus, who's right behind him at 5,400. Trae Young is down there, no surprise. Actually, and DeJounte Murray as well. So again, if you feel like, hey, somebody's got to score, somebody's got to be making those stops, take one of them. I'd go with Murray. And again, for a GPP at 8,800, that's pretty good value. And then Saddiq Bey, absolutely last at 4% ownership. All right. Over on Fanduel, top guys. Let's see if it's any different. Not really. You got Butler. Actually, you have Strus here at 40% ownership because he's 4,800. But again, he is someone who can give you 20. And I'm not as excited about him. Has not played particularly well against Atlanta. Bam Adebayo, 36%, 8,200. And here, one thing that's really interesting, DeJounte Murray, 8,500. He's only $300 less than on DraftKings, and he goes from being 7% owned to 37% owned. So if that doesn't say anything about just the pricing, I don't know what does, but super interesting there. And again, makes me want to take Murray even more in a GPP on DraftKings. And then the last, to round out the top five, Hunter, again, 5,400. Bottom five, John Collins, 5,900. He's a little bit pricier. He's not someone I'm interested in tonight. Kevin Love, 4,800. Clint Capella, 6,700. Given the number of minutes he gets, and against Bam Adebayo, I don't love that pricing. Okongwu, I think, is interesting at 5,800 because he'll be getting backup center minutes. He's only 12% owned. And then once again, Saddiq Bey. Okay. And we'll throw in Yahoo just because we can. Top plays on Yahoo, Butler, 3,800. I think that's fair. Bam at 32. Hero at $24 is third. DeJounte Murray there is fourth. I like his pricing a lot on Yahoo at $29. And then Kyle Lowry at $11. Man, has he fallen. I like that as well. Bottom of the pack here, you've got Bogdanovich at 17, Kevin Love at 10, Gabe Vincent at 10, Okongwu at 16, and Saddiq Bey at 11. Kind of like Saddiq Bey at 11 and Okongwu at 16. Okay, so King of Smack wants to know what we're doing with Lowry. We're smacking him around. Look, I think it would be really interesting. If Lowry starts, play him everywhere all day because the pricing just doesn't reflect him starting in the minutes he'll be getting as a starter. But if he doesn't start, if they continue to start Vincent and Lowry's coming off the bench, I think he's a fine play on DK at that $4,000 price point. Excuse me. At that $4,000 price point. In fact, if you don't play him, you risk that, because he's so chalky at 83%, that just the field just runs away with it. On FanDuel, I think you had to really think about it. He's 5,600. So more fairly priced there and still 29% owned. So I'm much more likely to get to him on DK. And then on Yahoo at $11 is another place that I would like to go. All right. So any other, thank you. Thank you, King of Smack. Yeah. And you think he starts. Okay. Well, if he starts, the question is, is he not going to play a lot of minutes just because he can't play those minutes anymore? Or they don't need him to play those minutes possibly. I think if he gets 25 minutes and he starts, I think he's in the flow of things for assists. I think he's, he could put up a couple of threes if he can still make them. And I think that 4K is very, very reasonable price point. All right. So we're going to move on to the second game. And we have, as I mentioned, 233 is the over under and an 8.5 point spread. It's in LA. LA has been playing great as of late. They're finally healthy, sort of. I mean, everyone's probable. I mean, that means they're all healthy. And it's a mess. So I really like LA here. I think they are gonna, handle things pretty easy. Plus the fact LA is half of Minnesota's team anyway. So they're starting Russell and Vanderbilt, and Beasley comes off the bench. So they've got a bunch of Minnesota players. Anyway, as we mentioned, you've got McDaniels out and Reed out and Gobert out. So they're just decimated in the front court. Noel is still questionable. I'm not sure if he's going to play or not. That actually makes a difference because, given the situation and the minutes to go around, you've got a few guys in the likes of Prince, McLaughlin, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and if Noel is playing, Noel as well. I would tend to prefer Noel over all of those guys offensively if we knew he was playing. But at this point, I'm thinking he's probably not going to play. In which case, I think a couple of the other guys come into play given their pricing. What do we think in this game? Well, as I mentioned, from the LA side, I think you have to go with one of Anthony Davis or LeBron. I just think there's so much usage. This is the playoffs. The ball's going to be in their hands all the time. They're not going to be, chancing it, creating plays for a Vanderbilt or anything like that. So I love LeBron. I think his pricing, I mean, it's a bit high, but it is not as bad as AD's. I think AD's pricing has gotten really crazy. I do favor LeBron. I won't be playing any AD. I just can't get there because you sacrifice playing another high price guy. So I think they could actually score against this team. I think they could actually score pretty evenly. So I'm going to be playing a lot of LeBron James. I like Russell in GPPs. I think, he's playing against his old team. He wants to show that he's come to the right place and they shouldn't have given up on him. I think he plays within himself when he's playing with LeBron and AD. So I like his game there. I don't know if he would necessarily blow things out because of the lower usage with both those other guys playing, but I do. I think his pricing is pretty fair, and so I like him from a GPP standpoint. I think the only other guys to consider on LA, Reeves has been incredibly consistent. And he's sort of a blowout protection. If it were to blow out a bit and they played LeBron and AD, 5 fewer minutes, I do think you're going to get usage and you're going to get some good run from Reeves, who will be starting and finishing. He's been playing really, really well. And, his pricing's okay. I mean, it's tough to, when you're talking about paying $6,000 for somebody like Austin Reeves, but he's been solid and getting the minutes. So he is definitely somebody to keep an eye on. Vanderbilt, not a bad price on DK, just not a lot of offensive production. So, probably not going to go to anyone on the second team. I'd be interested to hear if anyone in the chat feels differently. And over on the other side, on Minnesota, with everybody out in the front court, I do think that really elevates Towns. He's been playing well since he's been back. He seems to be healthy. He's going to get extra minutes. This is do or die. They're going to put it all out there. And I think his pricing is really fair. So he's somebody that I would like to get into my lineups. I favor him over Edwards. I think Edwards is going to be, I think he'll play really well. I think he's going to be highly owned, and I think his pricing is a little bit high. Again, with Edwards, we don't see so many ceiling games, but he's sort of a solid, steady guy as far as his numbers go. So those two guys are definitely going to be carrying a boatload of the offense. That being said, you've got, Kyle Anderson, as we know, he's the guy who can pull like a 50 out of his bag. So, do you consider someone like him? And then, of course, you've got Taurean Prince, who's thrust in the starting lineup. He's going to have to get good minutes. He's not a great points per minute guy, but he's a solid producer, and I think that I absolutely love him, by the way, from a slate standpoint, because I think he's going to be chalk, but I think he's really good value. And the Lakers allow some crazy number of points per game to power forwards. Now the question is going to be, is Kyle Anderson the power forward, or is Taurean Prince the power forward? But I think they've been allowing the last 30 games something like 45 or 46 fantasy points to power forward. So Prince is just incredibly priced for the amount of minutes he's going to get. The big question I have is who's going to get the minutes with Reed and Gobert still out? Would they go to a Garza? Would they go to a Knight? Or are they going to just play a little smaller because the Lakers, frankly, aren't a big team either? So that's a bit of a challenge. I'm not sure I'm willing to go to, Garza or Knight. I just don't have that certainty around their minutes. The best projections that I've seen have Nathan Knight at 8 minutes. And where do they have Garza? I think Garza was about the same. So I really just don't feel confident going there. The guy I kind of like, who's been getting decent run, is Jordan McLaughlin. I think he's under the radar screen. I expect him to get in the neighborhood of 18 to 22 minutes. And he is, on Draftkings, he's as close as you're going to get to minimum salary for someone who's actually getting minutes. So he is somebody that I am eyeing. I think that, Minnesota is going to keep it tight. I think they are not going to, extend into some of the bench guys. They're not really going to play a Matt Ryan, or Austin Rivers has not been getting any time, any Wendell Moore, anyone like that. So I think it's going to really be consolidated. But I do like McLaughlin for the backup point guard minutes, getting some assists. Okay, so let's see what folks in the chat are saying. King of Smack thinks the Lakers blow them out and that you don't have to roster LeBron or AD. Okay, well, if the Lakers blow them out, it's because of LeBron or AD. So I don't know. I think, I'm not sure. The T-Wolves made it to the playoffs last year. They played hard. I don't see them rolling over. It's going to be a high-scoring, high-paced game. Not sure I see blowout necessarily. I think so. I think you're gonna get a decent run from LeBron and AD. So I do like having one of them, and but I definitely agree with Towns. I think Towns is someone you want to get into your lineup. Skylar's asking Garza or Knight for backup center. Exactly. No Rudy, Cat's bench time, or are they DMPs? That is one of the questions of the night. And it's a great one. And anyone who gets information on that, please put it in the Discord. We'll be looking at the beat reporters, seeing what they're predicting. Because right now, I'm not ready to put either of them in. I just don't think they get the minutes. You're not going to win with a 2-game slate. You're not going to win with someone who plays 10 to 12 minutes. You really need those, quality 25 plus minutes from contributing players. Bev, I'm glad you joined us. How's it going? I hope you're doing well. Hope you're winning some money. King of Smack says, I think Conley, Edwards, Prince, Slow-Mo, and Towns are going to play right about 35 minutes just because they're shorthanded. I agree. I think they all get a lot of minutes. And as a result of that, I think their numbers look good. Like I said, maybe you can fit Anthony Edwards, frankly, probably plays closer to 40. And maybe you can get him in there. It's just he's pretty high priced. Let's take a look and see what we got here. He is 9,400 on Fanduel, and on Draftkings he is 9,100. So yeah, I mean, it's tough to play both Towns and Anthony. So it's more a question of, which one do you feel more confident in? Right now, Towns is $500 cheaper on DraftKings, getting a lot more ownership. And on FanDuel, you've got Towns is $400 less and similar ownership. So I think it's a great question. I mean, it could be totally contrarian to play the both of them. But I just don't see it. King of Smack thinks it's 123-104 Lakers. Okay. Not as high scoring as I would have thought. But I think, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they didn't have Gobert last year. Now they did have Naz Reid, but they didn't have Gobert last year, and played pretty well in the playoffs. So that could be a good indicator to look at. I think it really was Towns and Anthony. Russell disappeared in the playoffs, so that really wasn't an issue. I think Conley, will play great during the playoffs. I think they do bump up his minutes a bit. So I think they're going to give it a go. I just don't expect it to quite be the blowout. But boy from Cali, all right, he thinks Knight is a better defender, so safer in his position. Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of is he really going to get that many minutes? You may have, I mean, if you may have a situation where Karl Anthony Towns plays, 37, 38 minutes, and you're just getting 10 to 12 minutes from a guy. So that's what I would do if I were the coach. I would not be putting much time at all in Nathan Knight's hands. All right. So let's see if we go through ownership. You've got, as I mentioned, on DraftKings, Karl Anthony Towns at 62%. 8,600 is just too cheap for him. Noel at 3,300. So again, if he plays, that's a great price. Just don't know. I don't think he's going to be playing. We mentioned Edwards. They've got Rui at 30% and 4,100. Well, this would go into King of Smack's theory. If the Lakers blow out, you might see some more minutes from Rui Hachimura. I don't like him. I'm just saying, I'm not excited about that at all. I'd much rather go with someone like a in the low fours, like an Oladipo or a Martin in the other game. Taurean Prince, 5,600. Yeah, I mean, he's a much better price on. I think he's better price on FanDuel, but again, he's going to get a lot of minutes and starting. And then you've got down at the bottom, your bottom five. This is where I really like Jordan McLaughlin, 2.7% ownership. He's my GPP, one of my GPP plays, because I just think that he's going to get some minutes and, might get a couple extra assists or a steal and get over 20 points there and be a real nice value play. Troy Brown, don't expect much. Nathan Knight, we discussed. Wenyen Gabriel, I just don't see him producing much. And Malik Beasley, who, even though he is an ex-Minnesota player, hasn't necessarily played them well this year. King of Smack says Minnesota has Reed out, Vanderbilt out, Gobert out. All right, Lakers going to kill them on the boards and second chance points. I guess so, except Lakers just are not. I mean, maybe a Vanderbilt, I guess, in that case. But I don't know. You'll see Slow-Mo getting some boards, and the Lakers aren't the best from a rebounding standpoint either. Skylar, rostering on FanDuel is tough to get three studs without rostering someone like a Garza, Knight, or Nah. Yeah, let's see. My initial takes, I'm looking at FanDuel. Yeah, my initial takes are, yeah, you can do it. I mean, you probably have to go, depends on stud-wise what you're talking about. But if you do something like a combination of like an Edwards, a LeBron, and an Adebayo, and don't quite get up to the level of like a an AD or a let's see, I'm trying to think of it, or like a Trey, then I think it's doable. But yeah, I'd be real careful, getting down to like a Garza or a Knight. Particularly a cat game. All right. Let's see. Fade. What are we? So for me, it's 80. I just think his pricing's gotten a little bit away from the rest of the field. And he's a full, well, he's $300 more than LeBron on Draftkings, which is a little bit different. But on Fanduel, he's $700 more. So definitely on Fanduel, he's my fade. Let's see, my other fade is definitely Trey. I think Trey Young he hasn't had it against Miami. I think he does not play well. They're slow. They've got good D, and so he's certainly my biggest fade. I won't be playing any Trey Young at all. I might get a little AD in there, but not Trey Young at all. All right, so let's see. Moving on to Fanduel with the matchup and taking a look at the top owned and bottom owned. AD is the top owned at 15%. So the field likes him in Fanduel, and LeBron is at 16%. So kind of even split. And I feel like, what's happening similar to as I was saying is, it's one or the other on these guys. But interestingly, they're a lot lower owned than an Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is at 40% ownership, and he's at 9,400. And Karl Anthony Towns is at 48% ownership. So, going with somebody like a LeBron or an AD for a GPP, they're going to be some of the lowest owned studs on the entire slate. So something to think about. And then you got so it's. I'm sorry. You know what? That's why I'm in the wrong. There we go. There's ownership. Okay, top owned guys. Kyle Anderson, 68% ownership. He's at 6,500. Again, he's got a lot of upside and will be playing a ton of minutes. And he's played well against the Lakers as well. Taurean Prince, 4,700. As I mentioned, that's 59% ownership. I think that's an amazing price over on Fanduel. Mike Conley at 6,100 is getting 57% ownership. That's a little bit surprising that his ownership is so high. And then Karl Anthony Towns, 4,700, 9K. Oh, sorry, 9K, 47% ownership, followed by Austin Reeves at 44% ownership and 6K. And he's a guy also that I've been looking at. I do like him there. Bottom of the pack for Fanduel, you have, again, you do have McLaughlin at 3,900. He's already getting 14% ownership there, though. But Nathan Knight, 9% ownership at 3,500. Jalen Noel, again, still questionable, 4,700, 7% ownership. I expect the ownership would go way up on that if he's ruled in. And Troy Brown, Wenyen Gabriel, and Malik Beasley rounded out, similar to DraftKings. And again, I would not go after any of those guys. If you want to finish things up here with Yahoo, you've got Karl Anthony Towns at 53% ownership. He's going at $33. And Anthony Edwards at $35, 50%. So they are really running neck and neck. Kyle Anderson's up to $26, 42% ownership. AD, $48, 35% ownership. And then Taurean Prince, again, $11. That's a great value. On the other side of things, same cast of characters: Knight, McLaughlin, Brown, Beasley, and Gabriel. So, when you put it all together, on Yahoo, your studs who are lowest owned are going to be LeBron James at 22% ownership. Boy, that's really it. I mean, there's nobody over There's nobody over $25 at less than 20% ownership. So a lot of consolidation in there on Yahoo. And on Fanduel, you've got, in terms of your studs, again, Trae Young at 21% ownership, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, as I mentioned, are the lowest, and they're in the teens. So if you're looking at GPPs, they're the ones that you want to be considering. And then over on DK, you've got Trae Young, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis all neck and neck, all under 10% ownership. So again, similar situation there. All right, so cool. Skylar currently, really, Deb, you fading AD? You know, again, I'm definitely fading him on Fanduel because he's so much more expensive than LeBron, and I actually think they're going to get pretty similar fantasy scores. But on Draftkings, I might be flipping it the other way. I think they're both going to be great. You just can't play them both. And I might also consider, like I said, more for a GPP because of the low ownership. Aunt Jimmy and AD, but Garza was my last man in. Yeah, I mean that's the trouble with AD on FanDuel is he just takes he makes you have to play a Garza. So if you feel real comfortable about that, okay. But I think that's going to be the fading AD on FanDuel where he is. Where's he at? Yeah, 15% ownership. I mean, he is pretty low, but I think that's going to be the key. Or can you somehow make it work? And do you just go after two studs? And I just don't think it's worth it. I'm not sure I see him now. I could be wrong, and he could give you a 75-point game, but I'm probably not going there tonight. All right. What do we got? We're talking baseball now. Wrong podcast, dudes. All right. I think that's it. Any other questions from the crew for tonight's 2-game slate? All right. Well, good luck, guys. I'll be posting in Discord. Should be trying to post that a little bit early. I don't assume there'll be many changes like there usually are. So be able to get those out early, and so you guys have plenty of time. And we will be working our way all through these playoffs. So keep joining us, and we look forward to just really, having a great playoffs like we did last year, and hope that you continue to join us every day, even if you're talking baseball. King of Smack and Boy from Cali, calling you guys out. No, that's all right. Hey, it's not like I don't play baseball too. So anyway, appreciate you guys. Best of luck to you, and see you tomorrow as we look to crush it in NBA DFS playoffs. Take care.